And welcome back to Notre Dame Day. I'm Gary Sieber. And, in 2008, when the Mendoza College of Business sought to find ways to use business for creating social change, the program that came about was the Meyer Business on the Frontlines Program. And that's when it was born, 2008. Through Business on the Frontlines, MBA and other graduate students partner with organizations in various communities to develop pragmatic solutions that create jobs or improve conditions in economic growth for these really vulnerable countries. And now in its 16th year, the program advocates for inclusion, stability, and economic growth for, as we mentioned, the most vulnerable in our world. And joining us today to tell us more about Business on the Front Lines is Kelly Ruby, Assistant Teaching Professor in Management and Organization. Kelly, thanks so much for being with us. And when we say, on the front lines, some people are like, oh, okay, that's a title. You literally are doing business on the front lines. Tell us a little bit about the organization.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Gary.
Sure.
Notre Dame Day is always so inspiring. I mean, look at what just came before me. So it's an honor to be here representing the work of the Meyer Business on the Frontlines program. There's an estimated 1.4 billion people in our world that live in frontline environments defined by violent areas, poverty, prejudice, or exclusion. And so what the Meyer Business on the Frontlines program does is through MBA courses and partnering with our collaborators across campus, we create projects with organizations all around the world and here in the United States in those frontline environments.
Yeah, and part of this is, when we're talking about really dangerous parts of the world, in the West Bank, in Israel, which of course right now is in this great conflagration. What's going on with that program, and how are you trying to support them in this terrible time?
Yeah, so for a little over 6 years, Business on the Frontlines has been working with Child's Cup Full, which was created by Dr. Jeanette Habashi, who is an incredible Palestinian social entrepreneur and professor at the University of Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. We were connected with her through one of our alumni, as many of our projects come about. And Child's Cup Full has two brands. So they have Darza, which is women's fashion accessories. You can't see my boots, but I'm wearing some of theirs today.
Hey, nice.
And then they have Zeki Learning, which this elephant is part of that line. I borrowed it from my son's nursery for the evening.
Yeah.
And so we work with Child's Cup Full on projects, MBA students and law students, identify opportunities to increase sales, improve profitability, so that way the organization can hire more women and create opportunities for the dignity of work for Palestinian women, both Muslim and Christians working side by side in the West Bank.
And it's so important right now. I just think that business as an engine for social change is really something that is so uniquely Notre Dame. It really is. And when most people think of either capitalism in general or business, a lot of their attention goes to, well, big greedy corporations and all that sort of thing. But you're using it to create opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in our courses we talk about both negative peace and positive peace. So negative peace meaning the absence of violence, something that certainly all of us pray for every day in places like Palestine and Israel, Ukraine, and other areas of conflict around the world. But we also talk about positive peace, which is more of that social justice, that is true inclusion. And that's what we do best in Business on the Front Lines, is identify opportunities to create jobs and make our global society more inclusive.
Yeah. These operations like this, this is amazing, little artists. And you think about, for any of us who have even had a JA program where you're going to market a widget, something, and I think of someone who is in that terrible environment, being able to create something and say, how do we put this on the market, and how does it generate income, and how does it create jobs and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think that's where the learning opportunity is for our MBA students. They're learning not only what does it take to run a business, but what does it take to run a social enterprise, and what does it take to run a social enterprise in a place like the West Bank, where supply chains are difficult, financial systems are not reliable, and so they learn so much through working with Dr. Jeanette Habashi and her artisans. And then, the other thing that our students really learn is what it takes to build inclusion. One of our U.S. partners, Father Greg Boyle of Homeboy Industries, talks about the importance of going to the margins, not to change them, but to be changed and therefore erase them. So students who go on projects like our one with Child's Cup Full in the West Bank learn to create solutions alongside the community members themselves from the ground up to create jobs and set the conditions for economic growth.
And when we say, again, on the front lines last July, there was a 2-day operation in the camp where you were operating there. And so what was that like for, I mean, to see that sort of violence, firsthand and up close?
It is gut-wrenching, Gary. It's absolutely gut-wrenching. The last time I was in the West Bank was in 2022, and I was in Jenin camp with our artisans and their families who live there. And I remember waking up, it was right around the 4th of July, maybe on the 4th of July this summer. And I immediately saw the news of the attack. A lot of violence, people lost their lives, the entire community was in destruction. And so, first and foremost, priority is safety for the artisans and their families. And then we tried to figure out what can the business even do at this point to operate safely. Child's Cupful is committed to always paying the artisans' salaries in these times, because they need that income more than ever. So we figure out how to increase sales, how to be creative with the inventory we already have here in the U.S., and forecast what it's going to take to get production up and running again and more items through our supply chain.
Right. And outside of Israel and the Middle East, and where else have you set up shops, so to speak, in the world?
So we have worked in, I think, over 35 countries around the world at this point. This year, students went to Ghana, Uganda, Philippines, and Kyrgyzstan, alongside our projects here in South Bend and around the U.S. as well.
Yeah. What impact do you see yourself making around the world in all those places that you some just really good stories to say, this proves that it's worthwhile?
Yeah, I think, to our work in Palestine specifically, the involvement we've seen over the last 6 years of the improved self-efficacy, really, of the women. So, when they're first getting started, they maybe don't have the confidence in what they're doing, and then to go back a few years later and see how excited they are about their work. They're coming up with new ideas for products. They're coming up with really savvy ways of saving money by, shopping fabric scraps around different places in the West Bank. And, the increase in profits that we've been able to support Child's Cupful in having through increasing sales and working on some efficiencies, being reinvested into the organization to offer training opportunities. So, to me, when I visit the communities we work with, it's really kind of seeing the smiles on the face of the people we work with and the real empowerment and just belief in themselves that they can do this, they can lift themselves out of poverty, they can, make a difference for their communities, and that they're really shifting the trajectory for future generations.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much. We want to give a shout out to your 3-month-old. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the program that you run just is an absolute winner for Notre Dame. It sounds like Business on the Front Lines is really doing some truly remarkable, important work, and we thank you very much for sharing the story with us tonight.